Buckingham Palace. I mean, it's got to be one of the most recognizable buildings on the entire planet. But the story of how it went from a private home to this global symbol, well, it's full of some really surprising twists. So let's get into it. The making of an icon.
Okay, just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about today, 775. That is the number of rooms inside Buckingham Palace. It is absolutely massive, a sprawling complex. But you know, it started out as something much, much smaller.
And these days, it is so much more than a home. You've got to think of it as the central HQ for the monarchy. This is where state banquets happen, where global diplomacy takes place. It's the backdrop for huge national celebrations, and of course, for moments of mourning.
And that's the real question, isn't it? The place was never designed to be the main event. So how on earth did a nobleman's townhouse, built on what was basically a swamp, turn into the palace we all know today?
To get the answer, we have to go way, way back. Back to a time when the ground underneath the palace was, well, let's just say it was pretty muddy. For literally centuries, this whole area was just marshland. At one point, King James I tried to plant a mulberry garden here to produce silk. That didn't quite work out. A few other houses were built, but the big one came in 1703 when the Duke of Buckingham built a really grand townhouse. It was impressive for sure, but it was not a royal palace.
That all changed in the middle of the 18th century. The property finally caught the king's eye, but not for the reason you're probably thinking.
So King George III wasn't actually looking for a new, grand, official palace. They already had St. James's Palace for all that formal stuff. He just wanted a comfortable, private home for his wife and their growing family, somewhere to get away from the stuffy formal life at court.
And that's exactly what it became known as, the Queen's House. It was a family home, first and foremost. Think of it as a domestic retreat, not this huge symbol of state power. In fact, 14 of their 15 kids were born right there.
Okay, now let's jump to the monarch who changed everything, Queen Victoria. She's the one who decided to make this place the main stage for the monarchy. But the building wasn't exactly ready for its close-up.
This moment right here is the turning point. When an 18-year-old Victoria takes the throne, she moves in and declares it the official home of the sovereign. The era of the Queen's House was over, and the age of Buckingham Palace had officially begun.
But there was a massive problem. While the fancy staterooms looked incredible, the rest of the palace was a disaster. The chimneys smoked so badly you couldn't even light fires, which meant it was freezing cold. The ventilation was awful, and by all accounts, the place just smelled bad. Not exactly fit for a queen, right?
It gets worse. After her beloved husband, Prince Albert, died, the grieving queen completely abandoned the palace for years. It got so run down that in 1864, someone actually pinned this sarcastic note to the fence, basically treating it like a failed business that was closing down. It took a lot of public pressure to get her to come back.
So how did this flawed, neglected building get that world-famous front and that iconic balcony? Well, it turns out it was born from a pretty practical family problem.
It was actually pretty simple. Victoria and Albert had 9 children, and they just needed more room. So they sold off another royal property, the really exotic Royal Pavilion down in Brighton, and they used that money to build a whole new wing right on the front of the palace. And that addition gave us the iconic east front and, of course, the balcony that we all recognize today.
Now, let's fast forward to the 20th century. The palace was now a firm national symbol, and it was about to face its biggest test yet. In doing so, it would cement its place in the hearts of the British people forever.
9. During World War II, that's how many direct bomb hits Buckingham Palace took. And through it all, the royal family, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, refused to leave London. They were determined to share the danger with everyone else.
After one bombing raid destroyed the palace chapel, Queen Elizabeth, the future Queen Mother, spoke these famous words. What a powerful message, right? It meant the royals were suffering right alongside their people. That shared experience created this incredibly strong, unbreakable bond.
So what about now? What's the palace's role in the 21st century? Well, it continues to lead a double life, part historic home, part bustling modern workplace.
The sheer scale of the modern operation is just mind-boggling. It's a workplace for over 800 staff. It hosts something like 50,000 guests every single year. And it's a huge tourist attraction, with thousands gathering for the changing of the guard. It is truly a living, breathing, working building.
And as you can imagine, keeping a building like this alive is a monumental task.
This figure, £369 million, was the estimated cost for a massive 10-year renovation project that was approved back in 2016.
The whole point of spending all that money was to overhaul the aging guts of the building. We're talking plumbing and wiring that hadn't been touched since the 1950s, just to make sure the palace can keep doing its job for many more generations.
And all of this brings us to one final big question. We've seen its incredible journey from a swampy field to a private home to a global icon. But now, today, in our modern world, what purpose should a building like this really serve? Is it a priceless symbol of history and continuity, or is it a costly relic of a bygone era? We genuinely want to know what you think about this. What is the role of a historic palace in the 21st century? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below.